Welcome to Quantum RX, the podcast that teaches you how to move beyond stuck emotions and trauma for mind, body, and spirit healing. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Davis. So today we are going to talk about some more uplifting and fun aspects to healing. Because if you were to ask most people, they would tell you, oh, it's hard. And it's like I've always said, it's filled with ups and downs and twists and turns. And those are things that happen. And we often forget that there are some fun and positive and uplifting pieces to the healing journey. And those are really important to integrate. Something I find quite a bit in we'll call it collectively, trauma, emotional healing, self growth, self discovery world is that we're often told about the things we have to do or the things that we need to change or the things that tend to have a more, I don't want to say negative connotation, but it's not the fun stuff. When in fact, that is a really important piece of the puzzle. So today we're keeping it really basic, and I am going to walk you through 3 different ways that you can incorporate fun and joy and laughter into your life so that it helps you on this journey of healing. If you're curious as to if you have any stored emotions or trauma that might be causing your illness, preventing you from achieving your goals, or even preventing you from showing up as the best, most authentic version of yourself, I invite you to take my free Stored Emotions and Trauma quiz. You'll find that link in the show notes. So let's get back to the idea of having fun in the healing process. That's not something that, like I said before, it's not talked about, but it's a really important piece of the puzzle. And I'm going to share a little story with you. I think many of you who've been listening for a while know that I went to a retreat last year. It was a business and it was like a soul healing journey too. It was under the guise of a business retreat. And it was really interesting because multiple times when I was there, I was told that you need to dance. I have a few friends that were there and they're very intuitive and they're like, you need to dance more. You need to just let loose and move your body and have fun. And I was just like, okay, I didn't think anything of it at the time. But during that process, one of the kind of experiences that we had was movement and dance. And when I was doing it, it didn't feel right for me. It felt kind of awkward and clunky and heavy and all sorts of different things that in my mind as I was moving my body in a very, I will say, non-rhythmic and fluid or intentional way. Yeah, it didn't feel good. And so it planted the seed for me that maybe my friend was onto something. And during that weekend, a few other people had said something similar to me, like, oh, maybe you need to move your body more or just have fun, let loose. Let loose was some of the major terminology that was used. So I went home and I had some major transformations that happened. And if you want to go back and listen to those episodes, it was the episodes about the retreat. There were some that I did on my own and another one that I did with my friend, Teresa Lear-Levine. So those were interesting because you can get different perspectives on the healing journey and things that happened there. But yeah, the big takeaway was doing these things for healing. And so when I got home and I had, kind of reintegrated and dealt with some of the things that I needed to deal with, I felt so refreshed and anew. And I will say this was probably 4 to 6 weeks after I got home. But I remember being really, really young, and I used to love to dance. I would move, like when music was on, I would move my body. I used to work out in my garage in my parents' house, and I would put on music. And as I was working out, I would kind of be shimmying and dancing along with the music. And I would sometimes just turn on the music in my bedroom and, dance along with it. And I used to love to go out and dance. And I realized that I had lost that playfulness and that just fun somewhere along the way. And so I realized that I needed to rediscover this aspect of myself because it really is an important part of the healing journey. The laughter and movement and just letting your body go and be immersed in another process, but really finding that playfulness and joy. That's what it comes down to. And that's what I'm going to suggest to you are finding the things that bring you joy. So the first thing, joy and playfulness. So the first thing I'm going to say is sit down. The first exercise that you can kind of do is think about things that you used to do when you were younger that brought you joy or you had fun or things that you don't do anymore. For a lot of us, it is stuff like dancing and playing, just playing and movement, things of that nature. Sit down and think about what they are and jot them down. And as you sit there, see if feelings come up. Is there like a little kind of ping or echo inside you that says, hey, I'm still here. You're just not scratching that itch. So you can do that. That's the first step, I would say. Then pick one and try to incorporate it. So for me, it was dance and just movement, like just kind of moving. And it was funny because I noticed like sometimes I'll put on music with the kids in the car or even in the house. And I found myself like kind of bopping to the music in the car a little bit. And then I also found myself like in the house, I would turn on the music and we would just kind of dance and jam and move. And I didn't care. I didn't care if I looked stupid. I didn't care if my kids laughed at me, because they're all like judgments on ourselves largely, right? It's like in my brain, I thought, oh, you think you look stupid. I just moved. I felt the music and I moved to it. And I started doing goofy little things like that in front of my kids, and it made them laugh, and that made me laugh. And so there was laughter that was brought into it. And so it's that type of stuff is really important. Pick that one thing. So I have, like I said, I started doing that and I've cultivated that. So now in the car, certain days I listen to podcasts, other days I listen to music. And if I'm really feeling the music, I move to it. If I'm sitting in the car or I will on a walk, I'll put in my headphones. I do not use earbuds. I know a lot of people are like, oh, there's all these, natural health people using earbuds. I do not use earbuds. I use wired headphones, old school wired headphones. And you can see my headphones for the podcast are wired too. So yeah, I pop in my headphones and I go and I move. To that token too, I will also say sometimes I will leave the headphones off and I would say this is probably something that I do more of the time. And that's so that I can hear nature around me. I can hear the birds chirping. I can hear the wind moving through the trees and their leaves rustling. That for me is very healing. I'm a big fan of healing in nature. And so I like to hear those sounds and be immersed in that. So that's another way. But in that, it's more of like a walking meditation for me. So I'll do that too. But sometimes I'm like, hey, I just want to kind of like move and shimmy and I'll put in my headphones and just go. So I will do those things. But then after that, I was like, what other places, where else can I find joy and playfulness? And that was, playing with my kids. I think a lot of you might know that I've got a 7.5-year-old and a 12-year-old now. With my older one, that might look like going outside and playing ball. He plays football. So it might look like throwing the football or playing like a little touch game of football. So something super simple like that. Or with my daughter, it might look like us going for a hike or riding bikes or just playing games. Like just she's got games. She makes up games that we play and we also play like board games and stuff like that. So just getting out of your head and getting out of like the responsibility space and just being and having fun, even for like 10 minutes. Sometimes I know like I have to, quote unquote, have to make dinner, but she'll be like, "Hey, mom, do you want to play Uno or do you want to play another, card game or a board game?" And truth of it is, it'll probably take 10 minutes to do that. So yeah, I stop everything and I play with her because that's fun and that's playful and that brings me joy and that's healing and it's connection. There's so much benefit that you get with that. And then there was that piece of it. So, it was other places like playing and just moving your body in a way that feels aligned with you. And then just bringing community into it. So some of the groups that I'm associated with here in town, we will have we have meetings and we'll have sessions there. Sometimes I'm guiding them and sometimes I'm not. But yeah, like dancing with our bodies, moving our bodies, doing fun stuff just to just let loose and let it all go. I'm going to be speaking at an event in May called the Rise Up event. And that's part of what it is. All of the women show up there. It's mostly women. There's men too. The people who show up there, they are there for self-growth and transformation. And what's really interesting is like they don't always people who have been there know what to expect, but people don't always know what to expect. And I'm going to be facilitating there. And by design and on purpose, I am going to be walking people through, different exercises. So what I'm facilitating is basically the topic. I haven't named it yet, but basically is in the role of trauma and anxiety and regulating the nervous system. I'm going to be teaching people the science behind it, but then also how we can address it in our kind of just moment to moment daily lives, but then also like on the big picture, like the big, deep work. But part of what I'm going to be doing is weaving these little exercises in, and one of the exercises is going to be like kind of like a movement and a play, kind of little aside. So, and there's like going to be several little 5-minute chunks where we stop doing what we're doing. I stop talking and we're going to be doing these kind of fun little exercises because that's a really important piece of the healing journey. And I would go so far as to say it it actually makes the healing journey more significant and profound because a lot of what happens to us, we have these traumas that we experience in our lives most often, they're when we're younger, sometimes they happen when we're older, or it's like just traumas that have built on themselves. But in that process, we lose kind of who we are, the essence of who we are at our core, just these, beings. We really are beings of love, right? Love. And if you want to get in the realm of physics here, we are, at our very base, we're light. We are light. And so and there are aspects that are associated with that, and we lose so much of that. We lose those fundamental pieces of who we are. A lot of the people I work with say, and this is especially for like women and moms, they're like, I wake up in the morning and I don't remember who I am. Like I just move through life. I go through the motions and we kind of get on autopilot and we forget about all of these other things. And we just do the stuff we, again, quote unquote, have to do and not things that, are fun for us or playful or joyous. And I would argue that those are really important, significant pieces of not just the healing journey, but if you incorporate these into your daily life, you're going to have a much happier, fulfilling existence. And so finding ways to do all of these things, just remember, I want you to remember these things. I want you to remember who you are. So things that, you used to do that brought you joy, that might bring you joy again. Things that might be new to you too. That's something that I didn't mention, but what's new to you? What seems interesting? Is it, taking a dance class or some kind of movement or even another art form, like even painting? There are so many things out there. Joining a group, joining a hiking club, connecting with other like-minded people on certain topics. And like I said, when I connect with certain groups that I'm associated with here in my local community, we do have some play and movement embedded into some of the work that we do by design and because it's fun. It's just fun. And then, pick one of those things and do it, act on it, incorporate it. Like it's super easy to turn on a song and dance for 2 to 4 minutes in a day. That doesn't take a lot of time. So you could do that and then just see where it goes and grows from there and how it might, turn into other things. And then, just like I said, it might grow, build on that, whether it's continuing on doing that and bringing that back into your life or, just add new things or try new things, do things until you find the thing that's resonating with you right now in this stage of your life because we are dynamic beings and there are aspects of ourselves that are very true to who we are at the core and those are really important to maintain those. But as we grow and evolve, things come and things go. So it's also important to acknowledge that, well, you found something fun. I will say when I was a teenager, not some of the smartest things. I'm not going to go do those now. So those things didn't, well, they were fun and probably adrenaline rushing in the moment. I'm not going to do those now as an adult. So you can choose to leave certain things behind. But I encourage you to, do something, dip your toe in the water of, just that playfulness and that joy. And you will find that also changes your mood. It regulates your nervous system and brings all of these amazing things into your life. I mean, like I said, I think I stopped singing in the car and I stopped kind of dancing in the car for a very long time, like a really long time. And then, now that's something that I find myself doing pretty often and I enjoy it and it's fun. So I encourage you to, like I said, dip your toe in the water and do the same.
If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Remember, knowledge is just the beginning. Taking action is what truly sparks change. If you're overwhelmed and don't have enough energy to make it through the day, I invite you to book a free 20-minute coaching call with me. It's a no-obligation chat where we can discuss your health goals and how I might be able to help you achieve them. Visit the link in the episode description to book that call. Until next time, keep striving for wellness and remember, you have the power to not just survive, but thrive in motherhood.